to Momentum in Real Estate, your guide to success in the dynamic world of real estate. I'm Cory Wolf.
And I'm Kristin James. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned pro, we're here to help you reach new heights.
Success in real estate comes from learning, growing, and serving others.
Join us as we dive into strategies for lead generation, marketing, market trends, and client relationships.
Get ready to ignite your momentum and achieve your goals in real estate.
Let's dive in and unlock your full potential.
This is Momentum in Real Estate.
Welcome to the Momentum in Real Estate podcast. I'm pleased to introduce Cynthia Mattiza, a top producing Austin real estate professional with over 15 years of experience turning just browsing into dream home realities. Cynthia knows the ins and outs of moving. She grew up bouncing around South America before landing in Austin. She's become a trusted expert in that market, known for her professionalism, sharp eye for detail, and commitment to helping clients score winning deals. Her honesty, integrity, and heart have fueled a career filled with glowing reviews and top-tier awards. Outside of work, Cynthia volunteers with a few nonprofits and can often be found cheering on her daughters at the soccer fields or enjoying the beauty of the Texas Hill Country. Welcome to the podcast, Cynthia.
I love it. What an intro. You know, I don't read my bio often, so I almost sometimes forget what's on there, but that's my life, and pretty much sums it up pretty accurately. I am definitely a soccer mom, and I forgot that was in there, but yep, that's me.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
Well, Cynthia, share with us your real estate story in your own words. How'd you get here?
For sure. So it's interesting that we're even asking that question because I actually just posted on my Instagram of this, there was this aerial video of Austin and it's beautiful. And I had just reposted it. It was I can't believe I'm celebrating. I moved here in 2008. So 2025 to 2008, I don't know, do the math, but it's been a while. I've been in Austin a really long time. And I guess that's 17 years. Anyways, I've been in Austin, math isn't my strong suit. But anyhow, I have watched Austin grow. It's become what we call a big boy city. It's this tech hub. It's this great place to live. And I've evolved. My clients have evolved with me. But I started my career in 2009, 2010. I was 24 and we were in a really hard market. We were deep in the recession. And I just remember I left my job. It was my corporate job. And I remember my boss being your job will be here when when this doesn't work out. And I was no, I will prove you wrong. And it definitely was a rocky road to start because no one's buying real estate from a 24-year-old. And then in 2009, nobody was buying houses, period. So I really had to pivot and really had to start essentially from the bottom. And that included working phone rooms, working lease leads for $900 to $1,100 a month rent, driving all over the city, trying to just get a lease done. Fast forward to a few years, those lease clients became buy clients. I got listing, just, a lot of other realtors, that journey started really organically, but it was a really rough start. And I think that grit taught me why I am the way I am now. But that's my journey. It's not some this video went viral and then I blew up. It really was hard work, open houses, 4 a weekend, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. And just the old fashioned way, it feels like now, 15 years later.
I love that, Cynthia. And I feel like we will probably want to dive into that a bit more because I think for some of our listeners or viewers, they're in a really hard market right now. And so kind of drawing on that grit and just those call it what you will, old school skills of getting on the phone, doing the open houses. You came into a pretty tough market when you started, which is a little bit different from Cory's in my experience, where we came into the market when it was at the peak. So we hit the ground running, and that really provided a lot of momentum for us and our business. But one of the things I know we wanted to talk to you about is this whole idea of longevity. And, you've been in 15 plus years. experience really matters, and yet we all have to start somewhere. And so, can you sort of talk about both ends of that pendulum? Like you touched on a little bit in terms of just getting started, like who's going to trust a 24-year-old? So, how do you communicate or convey confidence, as a newer agent? And then at the other end, like talk about how your experience really matters now in the way your business is playing out.
Totally. So fast forward, or not fast forward, rewind to 2009. I'm 24. It's a recession. I am basically like desperate for anyone to call my phone. I'll never forget the first time my phone rang for like it was like an actual lead. And I thought I was being pranked. I literally thought it was my husband pranking me. And I was like, oh my God, someone's like really calling me. Like they like want me to go show them a house, but I'll never forget that. Like I got off the phone with them and then I called my husband and was like, did you just prank me? But anyways, I laugh at that story all the time because I don't want to forget having people call me for granted. But anyways, okay, to go with experience. Experience just gives you perspective. The more deals you do, the more you learn because you learn from every single transaction. No matter how smooth it goes or how rocky, you're going to take a lesson from every single transaction. So it's not necessarily years of experience, but it's like number of transactions. So even if you're doing like 30 leases a year and you don't have any sales, you're still learning experience. You're learning communication methods. You're learning how clients think or buyers or tenants and landlords think. You're learning about how to be creative to get a deal work. But every transaction is a learning lesson. So it's not necessarily years of experience because we all know veterans that have been in this business like 40 years and they do like one deal a year. And they're like antiquated and they're not up with the times. And they're like, let me fax this offer. So like I just think that evolving constantly, just teaching yourself, constantly learning is also a part of experience and not necessarily years in the business. But I will stand by this that number of transactions gives you that experience. I think that after 15 years in the business, there are things that I'm going to catch or I'm going to see red flags that I didn't see 10 years ago. I didn't like, there's like a joke in real estate that like we've all had to like pitch in our own part of our funds or commissions to save a deal. Like you forgot to add a fridge to a non-realty item. I don't know how many realtors have like bought a fridge for a client because they like forgot that. I will never make that mistake because I had an agent do that on one of my deals. And again, just every transaction teaches you something. So I'd say longevity is just, it is years in the business, but it's just experience, and experience comes with the more active you are.
Oops, unmuted. I love it. So have you been with the same brokerage the whole
No,
time? Share with
no.
us your brokerage
I got my license like 2009, 2010.
Mhm.
And I started with a local firm called JB Goodwin. And at the time, they were phenomenal with like new agents. They like basically took all new agents and they would spend the time and train. And there was a gal there, Linda Conway, who's thus passed, but she was just one of those incredible trainers that kept it so real, really taught us like all these incredible skills. And I wouldn't have learned that. And I think in like a bigger brokerage or even very boutique-y, they focused on training and I took that and harnessed it. Then I sort of kind of outgrew that space and joined, and at the time was a smaller boutique brokerage, Realty Austin. And I remember being like 26 and like pitching like a lot of brokerages, they're like, we'll take you. But this particular brokerage, they were like, we're small, we're boutique, and we'll see if we take you on. And I remember sitting across from the founders. I know I'm 26, but I promise you won't go wrong. Like, just take a chance on me. And I spent 10 years there, and it was phenomenal 10 year. I mean, I learned so much. I grew my business, completely catapulted. Again, the market shifted, but I became an agent really confident in what I was able to deliver to my clients. I received kind of great leads through them. I received a ton of experience, support, marketing. And those were really formidable years in my career. I really attest to the culture of that company and the leadership. And then in 2023, I joined Sotheby's. And, I think that the branding with Sotheby's is, like aligns with luxury and the luxury market. And that's where the direction that my business was headed. So it's just this like organic movement and organic like transition to Sotheby's. And it's been phenomenal. I mean, my luxury business has grown. My clients that started with me in 2010, they're on their like fourth or fifth home. And so it's just kind of been this natural involvement. But I have been at 3 brokerages in 15 years.
That's awesome and super helpful, I think, for our audience, just to, some people lock and load with one firm and that's their career. And then others like you have experienced different models, different structures. And so I think that's really helpful. Paint a picture for us of like what your business looks like. Is it primarily kind of sphere based, like just referrals from past clients? Do you pay for leads? Are you getting leads from Sotheby's? Like, what does your business look like?
Yeah, so I actually have spent a lot of time really diving into that because I really keep track of like when I receive a phone call, where is that source? And I track that. So in 2025, most of my business has been SOI. A good portion are repeat clients. About 30% so far have been repeat clients. I am receiving quite a few referrals, and I have this influx of referrals from other agents. I have 2 listings that I just have taken on. One's about to come to market, another one's in preparation, where they were referrals from other agents. They've seen my marketing online. They thought that I would really align well with their clients. And then I really do have a network of agents, not just within Austin. There's a group in Houston that we send each other quite a few referrals. And this is, I think, the 5th or 6th listing that I've received from this group out of Houston. And then another portion are referrals from past clients. And that's where I'm really most proud of, because ultimately every agent is, touts on their like level of service and what they're able to provide. But when you see an influx of referrals come through from your past clients, that's when okay, like they really did have a great experience. They're willing to pass your name along and send an intro with their friend and like rave about you in this group text or, in this email. So it's pretty evenly split, like 30% of referrals from other agents, about 30% of repeat clients, and another 30-ish% of past clients. And it's nice that it's not so like skewed one way or the other. And it just kind of makes me constantly keep myself like plugged in, because I don't know when those referrals will come or when those repeat clients will come, but I'm constantly staying top of mind. Oh, hi, buddy.
Oh, just a little break, Audie.
Oh, yes.
Audie's joining. Say hello.
Yes. Hi.
This is my new friend, Cynthia. And who's that? Auntie Kristin.
Oh, that's so sweet. I know. I told my kids, I was like, here's your breakfast. Don't open the door.
Cynthia, how old are you?
I have a 9-year-old who is pretty much going on 13, and a 6-year-old who is just like my little snuggly bear. She is. But yeah, I'm a girl mama, and it's summer, so we are making things work.
School's out, and
yeah, we are making things work.
I love it. I have a 9-year-old in my neighborhood that's a little girl, and same vibe. I mean, 9 is just tough. So
wow, I'm like, what happened? Like 9, you're like preteen. It blows my mind how fast it goes by. And just while we're having this conversation about like motherhood and work, is that, one of the biggest struggles I have is like, am I working too much? Am I like missing my kids go by? But, I read a lot of motivational books, and I listen to a lot of really awesome podcasts from like female founders that are moms. And they're like, you don't have to do it all. Like if you lay your head at night and you feel like you've done a good job, like pat yourself on the back. I don't need to be at every PTO meeting. I don't need to be at every this, every that. But I want my kids to see I'm working and I've achieved goals, and like I'm proud of the work I do. And they know like, oh, are you going to a showing? Or are you going to an open house? Like I want them to see me working. And oftentimes I'm like, am I working too much? But I feel really content with the balance of it. It's come with years to get to feel that way, but nothing like summer to like really test if you're like, oh, am I doing the right thing or not?
Well,
Well,
that's
and mom,
interesting. Yeah. Go ahead, Cory.
I was just gonna say mom guilt is such a powerful and strong thing, but I agree. Like when I'm working out, you want my kid, I want my kids to see it. When I'm working hard, I want my kids to see it. But something my therapist just shared with me, which I was like, oh, this is so good. She was just saying, at the end of the year, there's always a gazillion awards, banquets, ceremonies, trophies given out for sporting event, whatever. She's like, think about asking your kid, what's the most, I can't make it to all three. Like, what's the most important one to you? And I'll see if I can make it work. And I was like, oh,
I know.
brilliant. Because it just kind of relinquishes a little bit. And then your kid knows, like, you're doing everything you can to show up, but you can't go to every single little
Totally,
thing.
totally. There's a founder that I really enjoy listening to her podcast, like Emma Grede, and she's a boss in her field. Like I'm like want to subscribe to everything she's saying. It was just one of those things. It's like I've accepted the fact that I'm not going to be the like school PTO mom, or I'm not going to go do this, or not going to do that. And I show up for my kids in other ways. And I think in this era where moms feel this pressure to like do it all, I'm accepting the fact that I'm not going to do it all. Like, I'm just not. But anyhow, I'm just summer and kids and all that is just feel really impelled to just like highlight that because I think too, I mean, this like motherhood definitely does set me apart from some agents that they're not thinking about the balance of juggling it all during summer or whatever. But I think that it gives me an edge too because of one of the questions you asked, or you might be asking me, is like a neighborhood expert. And because I'm so plugged into our community and all that, that really gives me an upper hand in our community because of like how involved my kids are. And I am involved in their lives. I'm not gonna do every single thing.
I love that. Good boundaries.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, and yeah, I mean, for all of us, whether you have kids or not, like it's finding that sense of what are your non-negotiables, what are things that you're going to commit to in terms of your schedule and priorities. And I think our experience is like clients really respect that. Like when they know that you have things that are just like, these are firm commitments that I have, whether it's a hobby that I'm doing, or I have a commitment to my kids and their activities, or dates with my husband or partner or whatever. I think that garners respect from
Absolutely.
our
And
clients.
to kind of go back with experience is that like when you are 1 year in the business, you're just like the people pleaser. 15 years into the business, you've learned those boundaries. You know what's gonna like that like this one phone call at 9 o'clock PM could be an email or it could be a text or it's not a make or break that this could happen at 8 a.m. And I will say that with experience comes like being firm with your boundaries. And I'm not to say that like I'm not going to take a call at 9. I just know when it's like this is like a high level or this could wait until tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that boundary that boundary essentially is comes with experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. A few minutes ago, we were about to segue into a different kind of track here, but so when clients are like interviewing agents or prospective buyers or sellers, are going to like compare a couple agents, like
Yes.
what are some questions that you feel like buyers in particular should be asking agents as they interview potential?
I love this question because I often am in those positions where agents are or buyers are interviewing different agents. And I treat this buyer meeting, even if we know each other and we've done 3 other deals before, I'm going to treat this meeting like as if this is the first time we're meeting sometimes, because I don't want to take advantage of the fact that like you're hiring me to be your trusted advisor, not just because you like me, but because you trust me. And so I'm constantly trying to like remind the value that I'm bringing to the table, the value of why you are reaching out to me. And the questions that you should be asking, even if you know you want to hire that person, you should still just treat them like you were interviewing them. But the questions you should be asking is how many transactions are you doing a year? What is, if it's for a listing, what is your strategy? Because it should be not a one size fits all, because not every home is a one size fits all. Not every neighborhood, not every area, but really what's a detailed marketing plan that you're going to implement? This also comes into play with buyers. If you have a buyer that wants to be in a specific area and you know that a lot of those homes are being traded off market, you need to like prove that you know what those off markets are going to be. Where's the sources of that information? And like, how are you going to help get them access to some of those options? The last one is, how are you going to handle negotiations, and like what's your tactic for problem solving? Because a lot of times looking at homes is all fun and games, but when you get into the nitty gritty of the negotiations, and it's sometimes at the 11th hour. It is 4 p.m. on a Thursday when your option is due at 5 p.m. or your option's up at 5 p.m. That's when sometimes, for lack of a better word, shit hits the fan. And how are you problem solving? How are you being creative? How are you getting us what we want out of this to like save the deal? And you don't think that problems arise, but they do. And it's just how you tackle it and how you maybe predict that from happening is what you should be looking for in an agent.
So good. So I'm guessing not only is that a reason why your clients keep coming back to you, but I'm sure there's more to it. So tell us about how you are getting repeat business, how you are keeping in touch with your sphere of influence. Just share with us your business in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I am under contract right now with a client where I first met him in 2010. So he was one of my first buyer, but like he was one of my first buyers. And I helped him get into a property and he got a good deal. Fast forward, he got married. They wanted to move out to the suburbs. And I sold that house in a kind of a multiple offer. They made money and helped them buy their house. And fast forward, so 2011, then 2017 is when I sold that house. Now in 2025, they reached out because they are ready to like move up and just plant their roots in their dream home. And I'm representing on buying and selling on this next life chapter. So this client has evolved with me over the years, but he's continued to hire me because he told me, I trust you. I know that when you take it over, I don't have to worry about it. I know that it's going to be handled. And that trust over and over with other repeat clients is why I feel that I'm successful in this career, is that I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to probably think ahead of like give scenarios that could play out, and we're already prepared. So these aren't surprises. And funny enough, where I said we're like kind of, lack of a better word, shit hits the fan at 4 p.m. on an option period, is that happened in this particular transaction that they were buying in. But my relationship with the other agent is really where we were able to carve out a creative solution to make it a win-win. And that's also where kind of experience, just to tie in that experience and why I feel that I have clients to come back, is that I take tremendous pride in having a reputation with other agents. I think that sometimes newer agents, they just want to win the deal for the client and like no matter what it takes. And for me, my client is who I'm representing, but also I want to keep that relationship with the other agent in play because it will come back to me later on. I just closed a deal a couple weeks ago where it was off market, and my clients were the first ones to see the house. We made the offer, they accepted our offer, not because it was exactly what the buyers were looking for, because the other agent knew me. He knew me for 10, he's known me for 10 years. And he was like, I know we're going to get the deal done. Like this, we're not going to have issues. And I just accepted an offer this weekend with another agent where I told her, I know that if we work with you, we are going to have a smooth sailing transaction because we can work well together. And that ability to work well with other agents and fostering those relationships with other agents in my community and in my industry is also what makes wins for my clients. And I wish some agents understood that more because they're like, want to fight you over like $100. And you're like, okay, but I'm not going to forget your name.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because that's a really high value for both me and Corey and our business. And when I got it, to some degree, it doesn't matter what size market you're in, but we're in like a smaller market. And so we know each other. Like, there's obviously you've got like kind of tiers of agents in terms of those who do like a high volume of business, and then those kind of at the mid level, and those who just kind of dabble and do,
Yeah,
a handful of deals a year. And we can sort of put people in those categories. But regardless, like our reputation is really important and meaningful. And we want people when they see our name to go, oh, that's going to be a great transaction. Like
exactly.
she's great to work with. She fights for her clients, but she works to keep deals together. And I feel like at the end of the day, like I don't want to be like, we can't always take responsibility for like the way our clients behave, So you may get a buyer or a seller who's just a bear, that you didn't anticipate that was going to be the way it, the way it would play
Yeah.
out. But sometimes it does. And you have to do your best to kind of like hold the line and maintain your integrity in terms of how you represent them and not throw them under the bus, but at the same time, like it can
You
be
just
really
kind of call that
challenging.
agent and you're like, you know what I'm talking about. Because, yes, you're absolutely right. You do get those clients. And then you kind of
Yes.
call that agent and you're like, I'm so sorry for this amendment I'm about to send you. I'm embarrassed too. But you work through it
Totally.
because they hired me to protect their best interest.
Right, right.
And if that's how they feel, I'm going to honor that. But
Yeah,
I'm also going to tell them, hey, I think this is an excessive ask. I'm willing to try, but I want to set the
yeah,
expectation.
yeah.
This may be the response we get.
That's
But
right.
you want to try? Let's go for it.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, so much of it is, both managing expectations with your clients at the very front end to just, like you said, give them ideas of things that can crop up in a transaction so that it's not a surprise if something like that happens, or to say these are the like common scenarios that we see, whether you're a,
Yeah,
a seller or a buyer. I think that it dovetails so nicely with that experience piece of like when you've had enough transactions, you sort of know like, oh, this could happen, but here's how we're going to navigate that. Or, just
exactly.
telling people like, hey, there are going to be things that pop up that might seem like a surprise, to us, but we're going to cross that bridge when we get there, and we're going to keep a cool head, and we're just going to do our best to navigate it, because you can't possibly see everything, at the beginning that's going to happen throughout the transaction. But if they
Yeah.
trust like your discernment and your wisdom and your approach, and they see that like, oh, she can handle this, like we're not going to get rattled here, we're going to just keep our cool, and we're going to get through this.
Yeah, and that's also too where just experience comes. I've been on the phone with agents that panic, like the appraisal came in, or like, oh, the foundation's falling apart. And I'm just like, I can hear the panic in their voice. And I'm like, let's be objective. My emails are always like bullet point, and I'd love to talk on the phone, but I always tell the client, we're going to summarize this in an email because I like everything in writing. But my point is that I take communication in a very objective format, because at the end of the day we're just digesting information, and that information can, I just feel like if you can hear it in the tone of the agent of stress, the buyer's going to take that as stress. And if you're like, these are what are items, how do we address it, and how do we be objective about it? But buying and selling real estate is emotional, but your realtor should not be emotional. And I think that experienced agents, it's kind of this joke I've seen on this meme I've seen on Instagram that's like, new agents, a deal's falling apart. And they're like, aha. And experienced agents are, this is like the world's dying, but like I can still sleep at my head at night, because we're just like immune to it at this point. But I think removing the emotion out of it, but really understanding, yes, it is emotional, but your clients are hiring you to be that cool, calm, collected one in that emotional chapter of buying and selling. Remain that way.
So that is lovely. And I think that, again, the whole premise of all of this is like be in relationship with other realtors. It's not just your clients. But what are other strategies that you use when you're trying to keep a deal together?
Clear communication. I take pride in being an over communicator. And, in that initial meeting that I'm having with a client, whether it's buying or selling, I ask them, how often do you want to hear from me? Some are like, just call me when we get an offer. I don't need to know the feedback. I don't want to know just call me when we have something that we really need to talk about. And then I have clients that are like, I want to talk to you like almost daily. I want to know like what you're doing, how things are going, what's the feedback, how many show. I just tailor that experience. But people want to be communicated with. And I think that in this era, there's lots of ways that you can communicate with your clients, like it's text or call or email, whatever. But where I feel like I succeed is I'm going to over communicate with you. And I think that when you just keep this open line of communication and you can take that feedback well, where I want to receive feedback from my clients, that it's just a win-win. But I think that there are some agents that are like, I will send you reports on Tuesday and you will hear from me on Tuesdays. That's not me. You're going to hear from me when I feel like, hey, I thought about this. Let's try this strategy. Or, hey, we just had the showing. Here's the feedback. How do you want to respond? But I tell my clients, start a group text. We're going to chat pretty frequently. Like even pin this chat because like you're going to hear from me pretty often. And I just think an open line of communication is a win-win. But I don't know if that answered the question, but that's kind of where I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's a win for me with them.
Totally. No, and I think it plays, into that theme of like just being a good communicator, both with your clients and with the agents that you're co-brokering deals with. Like we're in a relationship industry, a people industry. And so I think the agents that are winning are the ones who are effective communicators, in kind of at every level, with their peers, with their clients. Yeah, I just think at the end
And
of
on
the
the
day,
side of that, of the effective communication, is like, this is like one thing that is so beyond me is that agents make the appointment to show a property. And then you're like, a day later, hey, how is the showing? We'd love feedback. Crickets. Send another text the next day. Hey, we just love some feedback. Crickets. I'm like, in 2025, the market is in Austin. It's not like flying off the shelves.
uh-huh.
I understand life is busy, but my clients just accommodated, drop what they're doing to accommodate the showing. Sometimes it's last minute and you can't respond to the feedback. It's just like crazy to me. And that's where I really like with other agents. I'm like, I just want this message to like go to everyone. It's like your sellers want it, or almost all sellers want it. Just respond to it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes 2 minutes to be like, even if you don't have to go with elaborate, like it's not a
Sure.
fit or did this, whatever, but just like a one liner is better
Well,
than
and
nothing.
presumably if you're a good agent, you probably had a conversation with your clients after you toured that property to kind of get their sense of like, what'd you think? Like what stood
Yeah.
out? Is this like still on your list? Are we ruling this one out? I mean, I would presume that's happening. And so to just shoot off, some very quick feedback, and like you said, it doesn't have to be like a novel, but just to say, hey, they're no longer interested, or they loved the kitchen, but the bedrooms are too small, or whatever it may
Yeah.
be, just something. But I really appreciate that, Cynthia, because I think for Cory and I, part of our like long-term goals is to elevate sort of the professionalism of our industry. I
Yeah.
think there's the sense, because there's so many realtors in the world and everyone can name 12, that it's just, we're kind of a dime a dozen. And so I think that being a professional, because most of us didn't, like, this isn't our first profession, so just doing what we can. And I think that simple example of providing feedback after a tour is a great
I
example
know
of
it's so
being
simple,
a
but
professional.
I don't understand. I'm like, oh, okay, and anyhow, that's just like one thing that I really wish other agents just like grasp, because your sellers are like, have you heard? And I'm like, I've reached out 3 times,
I
is my
know.
borderline
I
stalker now,
know.
maybe. But anyhow, just trying to just remain communicative with other agents, even if it's not gonna be a deal. That's fine, but just take the time to respond.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting. I also listened to a podcast where an agent was just like, "What sets you apart?" And she's like, "I answer my phone." And And I was like, that sounds so simple, but it's crazy
Mm.
to me how many people don't answer the phone or, I'm too big.
Well, it's a fine line for sure. I mean, I totally agree, but we get so many spam calls and so many, and so you never know, like, is this a legit caller? But my philosophy is I always like look at the number, and certainly if there's a message left, I'm like calling back immediately. Or sometimes I'll just do a quick search of the phone number and see if I can assess, like,
Oh, and
is this like a
nothing
legit,
I
is
love
this a
more.
company that's trying to recruit me or
Yeah. Nothing I love more when they're like possible spam. I'm like, good to know. Thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you, Apple. Yeah.
I love it.
That's like literally the best invention
It
in
is
Apple is like possible spam. But
so
anyhow,
helpful, right?
yes.
Well, I know we're coming up against our end time, but Cynthia, we're just delighted to have met you and to feel like we have a referral partner in the Austin market. And of course, we'd love to help you out if you have anybody, with connections in Western North Carolina. We would love to be your go-to people here. But thank you for sharing just your kind of authentic self and experience. And I know it's going to lead to a lot of takeaways for our audience. So thank
Thank
you.
you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation. And again, I come from this space of always really wanting to collaborate with other agents. I'm a part of so many different like broker little networks online where we really collaborate on like social media ideas, like what reel is performing best. And like, hey, did you listen to this podcast? Or I loved this book for growth. And so I really come from that space of like the more collaboration, the better to like improve our industry and elevate other agents. And I really wish there were more agents that like took the time to collaborate. So thank you so much for inviting me to this conversation, including me into this group. And my word of 2025 was like momentum and growth. And so I just
Oh,
love that this is just
I
tying
love
in as
that.
I'm like mid-year into my goals that the name of your podcast is Momentum in Real Estate, because I journal and I like write my affirmations. And if you kind of looked at that book, it's like momentum. And
Oh,
so it just feels very serendipitous. And I'm glad to have met you ladies.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, it sounds like we need to go to a conference together or
Oh
something.
my God, I'm here for it. And
I love that.
I would love to take this conversation offline.
Yes.
I've enjoyed the conversation so much. So thank you.
Oh, thanks,
Good.
Cynthia. Have a wonderful day. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Momentum in Real Estate. We hope you found valuable insights and strategies to propel your real estate journey forward.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to deliver content that resonates with you. Remember, success in real estate is about continuous learning, growth, and serving others. Keep that momentum going and watch your business thrive.
Until next time, keep pushing forward and bringing your real estate dreams to life.
This is Cory Wall.
And Kristin James signing off from Momentum in Real Estate.